Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming this session. My name is Sangwon Lee, and today I'm going to present our research work on plant-based milk and its effect on the dairy industry. So our motivation for this study started from the rising of plant-based milk industry. Plant-based milk has been growing for more than a decade. In contrast to this blooming of plant-based milk industry, the dairy industry has suffered a declining consumption of beverage milk. And there are some news articles saying plant-based milk is one of the reasons for this declining consumption of beverage milk. And recently, the dairy industry appealed to FDA that plant-based milk products should not use the term milk. So the situation around this plant-based milk and cow's milk motivate us to analyze the effect of the introduction of plant-based milk on the dairy industry. So our main research question is to analyze to what extent the introduction of plant-based milk affects the price of cow's milk. And the answer to this question is very important because it provides us with a better understanding about the competition between plant-based milk and cow's milk industry. And second, we're also interested in figuring out if the price effect vary between conventional and organic milk. Conventional milk and organic milk are quite different in terms of price per unit and the standard package size. So we expect that the price effect vary between conventional and organic milk. So to give some insight into what's going on in plant-based milk industry, let me direct your attention to some graphs related to plant-based milk industry. So plant-based milk has been growing for more than a decade, and the quantity share of plant-based milk has increased from 3% in 2006 to almost 10% in 2020. And in this fast-growing plant-based milk market, almond milk has seen a prominent growth. Soy milk used to dominate this plant-based milk market, but after almond milk was first introduced in 2008, almond milk has rapidly taken place of soy milk, and it reached almost 70% of the total plant-based milk market. So this is one of the reasons that we focus on almond milk, and from now on, we limit our attention to almond milk among many other plant-based milk. So let me explain some simple economic models to understand the introduction of almond milk on the price of cow's milk. So, and the simplest thing we can do is to think about the demand and supply in cow's milk market. On demand side, we think that almond milk is a closer substitute for organic milk than it is for conventional milk, because the price of almond milk is more comparable to the price of organic cow's milk, and the standard package size for both almond milk and organic milk is half a gallon, but for conventional milk, it is 1 gallon. And finally, it is a plausible hypothesis that consumers who avoid conventional milk in favor of organic milk for a variety of reasons, such as health consciousness, are likely to choose almond milk. So in response to the introduction of almond milk, we expect that the demand for organic milk shifts more to the left than it is for conventional milk. And on supply side, we expect that supply of conventional milk is more elastic than the supply of organic milk, because conventional farm milk can be more flexibly diverted to other processing purposes. Actually, only 30% of conventional farm milk is used for beverage milk, and the remaining 70% is used for cheese, butter, and dry milk powder. However, for organic milk, it is mostly used for beverage milk and some soft products. So combining this demand and supply side, we expect that the introduction of almond milk decrease, have larger effect on the price of organic milk than it is for conventional milk. And our second economic model relates to retailers' pricing strategy. So grocery retailing is often described as local oligopoly because stores are spatially distributed and consumers consider the traveling cost of grocery shopping. And in the imperfect competition in the retail market, retailers' pricing strategy can be expressed as the Lerner index, where the profit margin is inversely proportional to demand elasticity. So in response to the introduction of the almond milk, we expect that the demand for organic milk becomes more elastic than conventional milk, as the same reason we had in previous argument. So we think that from the retailer's optimal pricing strategy, the introduction of almond milk has a larger effect on the price of organic milk than it is for conventional milk. Now let me describe our main data set, Nielsen's retail scanner data. This data basically provides store level weekly quantity and sales revenue for each unique product. We call it Universal Product Code, or UPC. And to define our main sample, we use two store restrictions. First, we only include grocery stores and mass merchandisers where most of milk sales occurred. And second, we restrict the stores observed at least from 2007 to 2016 to get more reliable time series data on price of health milk. So after these two restrictions, we have 9,000 stores out of 40,000 stores in the initial sample. But we have to emphasize that these 9,000 stores retain roughly 70 to 80% of total annual quantity and total annual revenue. So now let's move on to our econometric models. So we use two econometric models. The first one is two-axis effect model. And the left-hand side variable is price of milk UPCI in store S at month T. And our variable of interest is WST, which equals to 1 if almond milk was introduced to store S at month T or before. Although these two-axis effect estimators are widely used in evaluating the new product introduction, recent literature on difference in differences has shown that there are some challenges in two-axis effect model when there are multiple periods and multiple treatment timing. And the key point of this problem is that earlier adopted stores served as control group in later periods when later periods started to receive the treatment. However, when treatment effects vary across cohorts and over time, this two-axis effect does not recover the average treatment effect on the treated. So let me describe the staggered introduction of almond milk and yeah. Yeah, this is. Yeah, store level data. Not every day. Store and UPC data. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like organic horizon milk. Thank you very much. So let me describe this staggered introduction of almond milk and how it may lead to potential heterogeneity problems. So almond milk was not introduced at the same time, nor it is randomly assigned. Almond milk was first introduced in Florida in 2008 and branched out to And almond milk tends to be introduced earlier in regions with more populated and higher household income. And according to some articles, Almond Breed, which is the first brand introducing the almond milk in Florida, started in Florida to target some Hispanic population who have higher genetic incidence of lactose intolerance. So from this favored introduction and non-random introduction of almond milk, this motivated us to use an alternative approach that is robust to potential heterogeneity problems. So this is our next approach, heterogeneity robust PID. And it basically consists of two steps. In first step, we calculate the group time average treated effect on the treatment. So for group of stores G, where the almond milk was first introduced at time G, we just calculate the simple BID only using the time periods G minus 1 and 2. And this group time average treatment effect and treated avoid the heterogeneity problem by constructing the control group only using the not yet treated stores. So in the second step, we aggregate this group time ATPs using some sample weights. And depending on the parameter of interest, we calculate the overall ATP or event time ATP, which I will report in the next few slides. So this is our main result. I report the two-axis effect estimate in the panel A and the heterogeneity robust BID in panel B. The difference between the first and second row is whether we use UPC or retailer as our interaction for time fixed effect. And as you can see from this table, we find that the introduction of almond milk has significantly negative effect on organic cow's milk, which is about 8 to 10 cents per gallon. However, we find a little effect in private label, which is 2 cents decrease per gallon. And we have mixed research for conventional milk. Now for in panel B, we report heterogeneity robust PID. And in the third row, we allow UPC specific trend for each group time ATP. And in the first row, we allow additional covariates that can affect the evolution of the price of cow's milk. And we also find that the introduction of almond milk has significantly negative effect on the price of organic milk, which is 9 to 10 cents per gallon. However, we found a little effect on the conventional milk and private label milk. So we conclude that from this research, we conclude that the introduction of almond milk has large negative effect on the price of organic milk. However, limited effect on conventional milk and private label milk. And now we plot some event time ATPs for each category of cow's milk, which reinforces our research in the previous slide. And as you can see, the conventional milk and private label milk, there is little treatment effect because the treatment effects are quite stable at around 0 over time. However, for organic milk, the treatment effect is gradually decreasing, which makes sense because as more and more people buy almond milk, the demand for organic milk shifts more to the left, and thus the larger effect on the organic milk price over time. So to conclude, we found that the introduction of almond milk has a significantly negative effect on the price of organic milk, but limited effect on the conventional milk and private label milk. And we think that the larger effect on the organic milk may result from the close substitutability between organic milk and almond milk. So our future work will develop a formal economic model to understand how the substitutability between plant-based milk and cow's milk affects the price and quantity of cow's milk. And we are also consider incorporating the retailer's pricing strategy in this model. So yeah, that's all for my presentation. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please don't hesitate to send them to this email. So yeah, thank you for your question. Yeah, and basically the unit of observation is HCI for that. So organic wise image, effective yes, is basically MMI for that. So the item that for WIC, so I'm going to work with this as that's for S. So it does not depend on specificity. So that's kind of the yeah, yeah. Yeah. Actually, that's very good question. In this model, I didn't like incorporate any of these like local competition between stores. But I think so. In this data, I can like calculate the distance between the stores. So if I can measure some radius of distance between stores, if I incorporate that measure how many stores in some radius, then I think we can control that kind of like yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So we think that the grocery return is kind of local organization. So this product that is in the corner, uh, the certain margin inversely proportional to the demand level. And we think that in response to the reduction of ammonia, the demand for organic becomes more elastic because the closer substitution to that relationship. So ammonia can be some larger and which is the total larger part of smaller, so that the cost of organic that is more. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Comment. Any other questions? Yeah, yeah. Thank you for listening my presentation. Yeah. So this is the third presentation in our session, and I guess it's also the last presentation. And in this presentation,
I will introduce a new method of estimating a large demand system of accounting for the endogenous prices, and I will use this demand system to calculate the true cost of living index as an application. So why are we interested in cost of living index? Because it is an important economic indicator of inflation, and it also acts as a deflator of some economic indicators such as the real GDP and real income. And for some food assistance programs, we usually offer the low-income household some fixed amount of cash value vouchers. However, since different states have different price index, then the effect of the food assistance program may vary from state to state. So it seems that it's very important to correctly measure the true cost of living index. And in the index theory, there are two kinds of index. One is called the axiomatic index. The other one is called the true cost of living index. And I think most index we're used today are axiomatic, such as the bias, commonly known as the CPI published by the Bureau of Labor and Cash Index. However, for those index, many studies have shown that they more or less overestimate or underestimate the true cost of living index. Well, for the true cost of living index, it is derived from the demand theory by optimizing the consumer's behavior. Rather than fixing the quantity, the true cost of living index fixes the utility. In other words, the quantities are not necessary to be held constant since different commodity bundles can attain the same level of utility or the same level of the standard of living. However, the cost of the true cost of living index is that we need to specify a utility functional form or expanded function. When we estimate demand system, the cost, if we calculate the cost of living index, we need to estimate a demand system. But when this system becomes very large, the cost of living index becomes harder to estimate. In that case, we want to find some axiomatic indices to approximate the true cost of living index, such as Fisher and Fisher Ideal Index and Tonkins Index. The study have shown that they can be a good approximation under some conditions. So then we ask this question. Is it necessary to estimate the true cost of living index? So if we find there is a significant difference between the axiomatic indices and the true cost of living index, then I think the answer is yes. But if we do find some axiomatic indices, such as Fisher Ideal and Tonkins, can be a good approximation to the true cost of living index, even though some conditions are well related, then I think the those axiomatic index are enough to act as the true cost of living index. So here is the our objective of this study. So our study is to compare several axiomatic indices with the true cost of living index, and to calculate the true cost of living index, as we know, we need to specify the utility function. In that case, we estimate the quadratic eighth model to and then use the parameters in the quadratic eighth model to calculate the true cost of living index. And in our study, we will estimate a large demand system, including 47 fruits and vegetables. We will introduce a new method of estimating such a large demand system. And for the public policy applications, we will calculate the real purchasing power of the fruits and vegetables based on the price index we calculate, and we will show how to reallocate the given weak fundings such that we can achieve the purchasing power parity. And we will show how different this reallocation is when using a different price indexes. So for the true cost of living index, this index basically is the ratio of the minimum expenditures necessary to reach the reference utility at the different prices. So from this equation, we can see that we need to specify the expenditure functions or the utility function. So that's a reason why we use the quadratic age model to get the cost of living index. And here is the equation we're going to estimate. It is the quadratic age model, and we all know that the W is the body share, P is the prices, and X is the expenditure. And when we restrict some parameters such as the beta or lambda equal to 0, then this quadratic age model will become the age model or the homostatic preference model. And so in our study, we will also estimate the age model and the homostatic preference model. And this is, you can see this is the indirect utility function and expenditure functions for the quadratic age model. And to estimate these nonlinear system equations, we can just simply use the nonlinear SUR model, a nonlinear least square, or GMM. However, when this system becomes pretty large, the estimation process will become very hard and takes you a lot of time. And Blondel and Robin were the first to propose a iterative linear least square method to estimate this large demand system. So their logic is just, you know, to linearize this nonlinear demand system and to make this process much easier. They also introduced a control function approach to consider the endogenous expenditure. Well, in our study, it is possible that the prices are also endogenous. So basically speaking, we extend this Blondel's method to estimate a large demand system accounting for the endogenous prices. We derive the asymptotic distributions of this IV estimator. However, I'll just skip here and just show how it looks like, and we will introduce how to estimate this large demand system. And since we know this is a nonlinear, and we can linearize them by taking the function form of the the quadratic age. We first set initial value of our estimator, and we calculate the this nonlinear system as a function of the parameters and our independent variable. Then we can simply linearize them, and I'll just go back to the quadratic age model. And as you can see, we can first set initial value of alpha, gamma, beta, and lambda. Then we use this initial value and our price and expenditure to calculate the log AP and BP. And then we put these things as another independent variable into our system equation, and then the whole system become a linear system equation. Then we estimate that to get the new alpha, beta, gamma, and lambda. Then we just repeat this process until all the parameters converge. Then we get the true estimator of our demand system. But this is not our, many studies have done that before, like Pendakers and other studies. But in our study, we gave you the asymptotic distributions of this average estimator, and we can empirically calculate the variance and covariance matrix of this estimator. So I'll just skip this and to introduce our result directly. Oh, and this is our data. We just use the retail scanner data with the 47 fruits and vegetables from the 2008 to 2012. And we have like a 65 RI market. And here is the price and expenditure elasticity estimated from the product age model. And I will just show this pixel plot. This pixel plot shows the price elasticity. For the diagonal element, it shows the own price elasticity for the 47 fruits and vegetables. And as you can see, all these own price elasticity are negative. And for the off diagonal element, they show the cross price elasticities. And take the first column as an example. I think the first fruits is the apple, and the number 47 is the tomato. So if we take a look at the first pixel, it's red. It means that when the price of apple increase, the demand for tomato also increase. This means that the tomato and the apples are substitute. So this is basically what this pixel plot shows. And after calculating the elasticity, we use the parameters in the product age model to calculate the cost of living index of the 65 markets. And here we just randomly pick one market as an example. From this plot, you can see that the Las Vegas index and the Posh index are the upper bound and lower bound of the true cost of living index respectively. And we find that the Fisher ideal and Hornquist are pretty close to each other. And it is also pretty close to the true cost of living index estimated from the product age model and the age model using the base utility as the reference utility. And we also randomly pick free market to show that the cost of living index exhibit a similar seasonal pattern. And as you can see here, the price level is usually higher in the winter within the year, and it's usually lower in the summer. And this map shows a county level cost of living index. And from this maps, we can obviously see that the cost of living in the northeast area and southeast area is relatively higher, while the cost of living in the south area are relatively lower, such as the Texas and Arizona. So from these two polls, we can find that the cost of living index, the cost of living exhibit a similar seasonal pattern, but a different regional pattern. Then we go to the policy application. So here we calculate the real purchasing power of the WIC fruit and vegetable cash value vouchers. The WIC fruit and vegetable cash value voucher offers $9 per child and $11 for women. And we calculated the real purchasing power of this $9 cash value voucher and 11 cash value vouchers. And we want to show how to reallocate this with total funding so that we can achieve the purchasing power parity, which means that we want to equalize the real purchasing power of the cash value, fruits and vegetable cash value vouchers. And to do that, we want to show how different it is to reallocate the WIC funding when using different price indexes. So this is how we calculate that. And from this plot, we can obviously see that to realize the national purchasing power parity, given a fixed amount of WIC cash value voucher fundings, basically we need to transfer some money from the low cost of living areas to the high cost of living area. And then using different price indices, including the axiomatic indices and some true cost of living indices, we can find that for some quality or for some time, even though we find that the price indexes are pretty close, but when we reallocate our WIC funding, we still find some difference when using different price index. So here's our conclusions. We extend the Blundell's and Robin's method to estimate a large demand system accounting for the endogenous prices. And then we use the parameters in the productive age model to calculate the cost of living index. We compared several axiomatic indices with the true cost of living index. We find a significant regional difference, but a common seasonal pattern for the fruit and vegetable price levels. And then we simulate how much funding should we be reallocated to achieve the real purchasing power, and real purchasing power to be equal. And we show that how different it is when using the different cost of living indexes. So that's the end of the third presentation. So thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Oh, sorry. We have the 65 markets, so we know for each market how many countries we covered. And so we calculate the cost of living index for those markets. So we just assume the counties in that market share the same price level. Yeah. It's the white means that it's the price level is 1. It's like the base. Oh, we didn't cover that. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. In this study, we just want to this purchase power parity means that we want the weak participant to purchase the same amount of fruits and vegetables across the nations, so that we can realize like the nutrition equity, something like that. So here, because let me show how to calculate that. So for the weak percentage, we usually offer the cash valuables for fruit vegetables monthly. So basically, we calculate the how much weak funding we need to how much weak funding we need in that month, given the total number of the participants. So we fix that total weak fundings, and we want to see how to reallocate that such that we can, the people in everywhere can purchase the same amount of fruits and vegetables. Because if the price levels are different, maybe the people in New York, they have the higher cost of living, they may purchase the less fruits and vegetables. But so that then the effect of this WIC program may be different across the states. Yes, but you're right. It's like from the policy perspective, we can't just take the monies from Texas to just give them to the New York participants. No, but another try is that we fix the utility. Seems that like okay, we know that the participants in New York, they have faced a higher cost of living. They may have a lower utilities given those weak tax value vouchers. Then to increase their utility to the same level of the Texas people, then how much money do we need to give them so that they can attain the same level of utility? So that's another, I think, the policy applications here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a good point. Yeah, maybe you could consider it, but yeah, at this time uh, we just want to show that when using the different price index, we may find some significant difference, to reallocate this fund. But yeah, I think in our next study or in the future study, we could consider this idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, thanks. So yeah, thank you. Yeah. So since have a we have a 10 minutes left, so we also have the very quick presentation for the
because I have my presentation scheduled first online and then I move it in person, then emailed me that there is a slot here, like 10 minutes ago. Yeah, there we go. So my name is Winter Wang, and today I'm going to talk about something about soda sales taxes. You may not realize that 34 states in the US levy sales taxes on soda. And there are two basic purposes to levy soda sales taxes. The first one is definitely to contribute to the local government revenue, and the second is to reduce the increasing epidemic of type 2 diabetes and obesity, especially among the low-income population. That's because we overconsume so much soda. However, the low-income population also has another benefit. So they can apply for SNAP. That basically you can use SNAP to exempt, to remove all the sales taxes. So there is a dilemma that if the soda sales taxes want to take effect to addressing the diabetes and the obesity problems, they need to make the SNAP don't cover the soda, right? Otherwise, it will be a dilemma. The SNAP household will find this loophole and like to avoid this soda by using like SNAP benefits to cover soda and to use their out-of-pocket money to buy other untaxed groceries. So this is the dilemma of soda sales taxes, and it has noticed by the policymakers. In 2011, the New York State even proposed to ban the SNAP benefit to cover the soda products in New York City, because the soda is considered to have minimal nutritional value and contribute to poor nutrition and health. However, at that time, the USDA rejected this proposal based on like limited information and knowledge. So my research questions are, first, we didn't even know that how the SNAP household and non-SNAP household react to the sales taxes. Okay, do they react to differently, or do they just pick them as the same? Or the SNAP household even didn't notice that there's sales taxes, or didn't know that they can use SNAP this benefit to remove this tax, to avoid this tax. And the second is to test whether the SNAP households use benefit to remove this tax. And then I can compare with the soda sales taxes versus the soda excise taxes. The soda excise taxes may be known by more popular because recently there are 6 cities that have this excise taxes. This is the distributor or the wholesale markets, wholesalers and the bottlers. But the sales taxes is implemented on the consumer directly. So what is new about my research? So first, I use a general border method to get more causal results, like by comparing county to county close with each other, then I can control for the unobserved time variant variables. And the second new is that I use an innovative data set that contains 5-year soda sales taxes at county and state levels. And I merged it with a Nielsen consumer scanner from 2013 to 2017. And then I use method of payment to identify SNAP households in Nielsen. And then I can trace how the Nielsen households, their consumption pattern different from non-SNAP households. And also, this is the first paper to my knowledge that to address this dilemma of soda sales taxes. And because there is a true dilemma between tax the same foods and the beverages versus the SNAP can exempt the sales taxes from being taxed, exempt the same foods from being taxed. So regarding to the general border method, because I have the tax rates across to the US counties, so I first found that the tax are really diverse. They're really like in the, you can see the distribution of the tax in the county that some this is basically one strength of my identification. And so Time variant and so forth. So this is the strength of my method. Another strength is that I use Nielsen data and I can identify the SNAP household within Nielsen data. And the soda consumption, I have three measures: first by expenditure, second by unit, and third by the volume. And I also control for the soda price and some household level calories. And this is some basic some statistics about the and then here's my result. Unobservables, then it makes a difference, right? And this has also another thing that's interesting is that we found very people will spend the last one to follow by how that happens? Because usually that people change from large small water to large water, but we maintain this is basically my guess. And I tested using the Nielsen data, and I really found that the tax can increase the large bottle consumption but to decrease the small bottle consumption, but it's not showing the results to make it brief. I would like to see whether the SNAP houses from the SNAP account to the output of money. So I found that I found this evidence that SNAP households realize this tax and will take some behavioral action to adjust their consumption due to the increase of tax increase. The last thing is repeated my results using words. So basically, I find that soda sales taxes take effect on the overall population, while it doesn't have a very good effect on SNAP households. It's because their SNAP household found a loophole that they can transform from their SNAP accounts, from their out-of-pocket money to the SNAP accounts so that they can avoid the tax. But excise tax doesn't have this mechanism. They have more effect on SNAP households because low income are more sensitive to the tax, the price change, but they have very insignificant result on the overall population. So that's basically my overall finding. And the conclusion is that first, the soda sales taxes reduce purchases overall. And I use a general border method, and I found that it significantly reduced soda purchases, measured in soda expenditure and unit, but not in volume. And the second result is that I found that the dilemma of soda sales taxes is true, that SNAP households really take this advantage by using their SNAP benefits to cover more purchases if soda sales taxes increase. And 3, the volume of soda consumption is reinvested to soda sales taxes. And 4, that soda excise taxes works better for SNAP households. That's all for my presentation. Thank you. If there's any questions, I'd like to answer after this section because I think I'm running out of time. Yeah.